a podcast about business, marketing, growth strategy, staff, clients, babies, and marriage. I'm Christina. This is Peter Pilarski. We're founders and leaders of CIPR Communications. Hi.
Hi. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that I'm probably actually not that great at, mostly because my personality is a very optimistic one. But it's managing PR expectations, which is probably a really important topic. It is a really important topic, especially in today's world. So it's been a very interesting world from a PR perspective with COVID coming on. I mean, it's been very, very challenging to get earned media.
My
If not,
favorite, yeah, my favorite example of this is the tool, obviously, that we use for distributing press releases across the wire and researching lists and stuff like that. There's like I guess it's like a word cloud feature in there. So if you like look up a journalist, so Christina the journalist, and it'll give you kind of a word cloud of the topics that she writes on. And so, whatever it may be, gardening, this, that, and obviously the bigger it is, the more interested they are. Remember, Brad and I were like looking through a few and we were thinking about pitching a story for a client. And so you go to your like traditional roster of journalists, and we were just poking around and seeing what was going on. And all of them, their biggest words are COVID,
yeah,
followed by pandemic, followed by
yeah,
vaccinations, followed
yeah,
by, and like these are reporters that we would have went to with a tourism piece or an energy
right.
piece and those words are still there, but they're very small
They're very small.
in
Yeah,
comparison to, I'm not even going to say a year ago anymore. I'm going to say 2 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's I think our long way of saying that right now in the PR media relations environment, it's like it's all COVID all the time, right? So it's very hard to manage expectations, and people want to get their news stories out there. So we've actually made a shift internally in terms of how we approach this, and we're sort of trying to get clients to come on side the idea of a paid first approach, which means really we're going to pitch some media, but we're going to go out with a soft pitch asking about rate cards and rate sheets. And like, we're going to do some research first and try to get you some idea of what it's going to cost you to get a paid piece, because for many, many stories, you're just not going to get an earned piece. So that's what we're doing a little bit to manage expectations. We're, talking a little bit more and more about, having a budget for paid PR. And then you can, then managing expectations becomes easier, because obviously your paid partner has some rates and stats and things.
I think the other interesting piece that you've been doing lately, and it's I would say a new offering for us, is this kind of mapping.
Stakeholder mapping.
Right.
Yeah.
So like just trying to, and I want you to like explain this too, because I think whether you're pursuing an agency or you're trying to do this in-house, I think this, there used to be, okay, we're going to send a new like this across the wire. It'll go and people will pick it up and we got to prepare for that. And oh, there's going to be or maybe we're making a press conference and okay, media will come to that. But understanding the current environment and doing a map, and again going back to that strategy first piece, like everything you do should be tied to a strategy and a strategic approach. But why don't you explain that kind of influencer mapping side of things that we've been
Yeah.
slowing things down, not going hot out first?
Yeah. So essentially we're taking kind of our new approach to PR where we can. Certainly, I mean, we're trying to work with clients, get their heads wrapped around this, but really we start off with something that we're calling an opportunity map. And an opportunity map is, last time we talked about multi-channel PR, but it's like, okay, so like, what are the opportunities out there? There's obviously a press release you can put on your website. You could put some advertising dollars behind that. You can put something over the wire. You can, then so we reach out to various different media channels, like, okay, so we can try to get you some podcast, like appearances on podcasts. We can try to get you into a influencer gift guide. We can, right? So we look at all the different opportunities there are in the PR landscape. Maybe you want to work with a social media influencer. Maybe that's a good PR channel for you. So we look at all the different opportunities in the PR landscape for your particular situation. So obviously all the media that applies to your press release or to your media story that you want to tell. And first we start off with mapping it. So we've kind of de-risked the process a little bit in the sense that it's a 3-step process for what you pay. So step 1, you pay for basically, here's a map of the different opportunities based on the research we've done. And here's our recommendations on, what kind of budget you should think you need, what are the best opportunities based on your goals and the different media channels we're able to discover in our research, et cetera, et cetera. And then once we're all aligned on that, then phase 2 is, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to be your agent, if you will, for a lack of better terms, to speak to all these various different media channels and opportunities. So, we're going to pitch your media story. We're going to try to get you some paid advertorials if that's the direction we've chosen. Whatever, we're going to get you into a holiday gift guide, and we're going to, offer your product for free as an exchange, or whatever it is we've decided. We're now going to go and execute that for you. And we're going to go and build those relationships for you. And we're going to build those contracts for you. We're going to negotiate on your behalf. And then phase 3 is, then we're going to manage all of that for you, make sure that the metrics are all lined up, make sure that we're tracking all the right things, making sure that whoever we're working with is reporting back on what's going on, all that kind of stuff, right? So we're making adjustments based on the data. So really, then that's really where the management piece comes in. And so, yeah, we've basically we've de-risked the entire process and really focused on, like Christina said, slowing it down and having more of a strategy first, research first approach, to get you the best outcomes. And I think from we're talking about managing expectations. That makes it a lot easier to manage expectations, right? Because it's like everything's very clear, everything's one step at a time. Everybody knows sort of the program we're going to go down, how long we're going to go down it, all that kind of stuff. As opposed to the one-off press release, which is literally the thing I hate the most out of anything. One-off press releases, just don't even bother anymore. If you're not gonna do PR with some kind of frequency, then I think it's just too difficult right now.
It's true. I want to pause on that piece for a second because I think it's important. Also, if you're watching on the video, you witness me spilling tea all over myself while you're talking. And I'm wearing a white sweater, so that's really great. Yeah. But in thinking about like the one-off press release or public relations from that perspective, it's like I think it worked in the past, but I don't think it was ever the smartest way. Like, even in a time where, let's go a few years ago, 5 years ago, where public relations was still very, and I don't want to use the word easy, but easier than it is now. Always more success was seen in like a multi press release approach and a strategic approach, unless you were a name that the media was going to. And I think if you slow yourself down from a public relations perspective, you think about multi-channel marketing, the first thing you should be thinking about as a business in order to manage expectations is like, what does my presence, whether it's online or offline, look like? Mm-hmm. And if it looks like nothing, then you are not going to get the attention of anyone, whether it's media or not. And if it looks like we come from politics, and I feel like in politics, we always say perception is everything, but like perception is everything. Like if I find a website for a company that, like, think again, the example of Googling window cleaning. If you go on and you look, and Bob's Window Cleaning doesn't have a website, doesn't have a Facebook page, has one review from a guy from 3 years ago, you're probably not calling Bob's Window Cleaning. Right. But if you're looking at like Window Cleaning RS, and they have a gorgeous website, they post on social media, their guys like washing windows all the time. They have 62 reviews, a 4.2 score on their Google My Business profile. It's like, okay, you have a news story. You just, washed your 1 millionth window during COVID. Great. Let's do it. Let's run with it. So it's like, it's not even this, like, I feel like businesses get so excited sometimes about this big announcement, and it's like, you need to take a
Build
step
up to it.
back, like take a shower, brush your hair, put your nice outfit on before you go on your first date. Don't
Right.
just like meet the girl, swipe whatever way you're supposed to swipe. I don't know.
I'm not sure where we're going with this whole thing. We're really,
No, like you don't
I
just
know what you mean. Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
just get up and go, right? Like
Yeah.
you have preparation before you go into the public,
Yeah.
right? So it's like managing expectations too. If your boss walks down the hall or if a client is coming to us and goes, I got the greatest announcement of all times, and you slow them down and go, okay, we could launch this now and we could tell the world, but you have nothing from a marketing and communications perspective that's going to back you up.
Yeah.
So it's like also that managing expectations of like you think you have great news, but you if it is great news, I'm going to make the assumption it's great news.
Yeah.
You need to like have your ducks in a row to prove the legitimacy of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, just like everybody will go to Google or a search engine to sort of look up a company when they read something or whatever. Like, that's pretty standard human nature now, right? Sort of verify the legitimacy of this company. That's what media is doing too, right? You send them a press release, like they're not just going to willy nilly write, oh yeah, this company that is like has zero internet presence. They're saying this, so therefore it must be true. It's like, absolutely not, right? I mean, like, journalists are educated in sourcing properly, making sure there's credibility and legitimacy, right? So like, you're not going to get earned media if you don't look legitimate, and you don't like have credibility already online. So you got to work up to that, right? And it's interesting. I put together this budget once. Actually, I still have it, and I might bring it back to life. But it's sort of like, what I did is I sort of said, okay, let's just assume that companies spend 10% of revenue on marketing and communications, right? So then I was like, okay, so let's now use a $500,000 revenue company, and then I went 500,000, 750, a million, and up and up and up and up, right? And then I took our services in terms of like the various services we provide, and I put all of our pricing down. And then I started sort of just trying to do the math. I was trying to go backwards on, okay, so if I'm a $500,000 revenue company, what services can I afford? And it was interesting in the sense that like all the things we're just talking about. So like, yeah, what should you be doing if you're a small company? Probably organic social media with a little bit of advertising, right? Maybe a little bit of small PPC budget kind of stuff to get more eyes on your stuff, right? As you get bigger revenue wise, that's where you add more channels, you add more whatever, you add PR, you add all those things, right? But the point of my story is that similar to as you grow as a business, as you grow in sophistication, the types and kinds of channels you can use to sort of do your PR grow as well, right? And so those bigger companies, and very much so, it was like over a million, over 1.5 million is where PR started to make sense for companies, from just a revenue perspective. But similar to how you have to grow your company to get to that revenue, you have to grow your channels to get to that place where you're kind of, in a place where this is probably going to make sense for you. I don't know if that made any sense, but
Sure what the spreadsheet had to do with anything, but I think it just makes sense. No, I mean I think the biggest thing is there are two big ways to manage expectations. So if you're the marketing manager or the marcom manager or the communications manager, your bosses come to you and they want this big press release. It's like you got two questions. One is like, what's the goals of the press release? What's the strategy behind it? And if the goals are about more eyeballs or more whatever, then it's like, okay, yeah, let's put it out. We're building a brand, we're building brand reputation. If the goal is around sales or around whatever, it's like, okay, well, what's our multi-channel approach in this?
yeah.
We're really trying to heat things up. Then from a goals perspective, like let's think about this.
Hmm.
If the goal is media, if it's about getting the interview, being on TV, being on something specific, it's like, okay, well, what is our multi press release approach? Are
Right.
we introducing ourselves? Are storytelling?
Right.
Right? We've never done a press release before. It's been a year since a press release. It's like, how are we telling the story again? How are we creating some excitement? How are we showing some legitimacy? So ask those questions first. What's the goal? If the goal is about eyeballs, it's like, okay, let's hit it. Let's get it out there. We know our own media channels are, check mark, good. Let's do it. If it's about, getting on TV and doing that piece, you got to think longer and harder about it.
Yeah.
And then I think there's this other question that you need to ask. So what are the goals, and drilling them down, and how do your goals relate to actually the tactic? And then I think this other goal around, are we ready? Do we have someone that can speak to media? And we've talked about this a lot. Do we have, again, back to the first, our owned media channels in order? Are we actually ready to give this announcement? Is it interesting enough? Or can we wait 2 to 3 weeks when there's a really interesting example, or there's a little bit more data, or there's another party coming to the table? So it's about, 1, what's the goals? 2, are we ready? And ready means the follow-up question is like, when will we be 100% ready? Or if we feel ready, is there a point in time where we'll be even more ready?
Yeah, I wanted to just sort of dive in a little bit deeper on when you talked about getting is one of the goals media. I think you need to dig even deeper than that, because it's like, well, why is the goal media? Right. And, I think the reason that you want to try to get that media is to have third-party credibility behind your brand. Right. But then again, when it comes to managing expectations, it's like there's many ways to do that, right? So again, with multi-channel PR, you could have obviously, be on the CTV national news. That's a really big, hairy, audacious goal. That's very difficult to achieve. Might be more of a local media story. But again, maybe it's like, hey, you know what? Like if a blogger is talking about this, that might still be adding credibility. But and maybe adding credibility is getting some reviews from some of your clients or some of the people you work with, right? So I think you got to even dig deeper in terms of those goals, and like, okay, you want media, but why? And then if the why is because we want to add some credibility to our brand, which really probably should be the why most of the time, then it's like, okay, what are the different ways we can do that? And then it becomes a lot easier to manage expectations, because then you can say, okay, we want 50 reviews, we want to get into the national news, we want, right? And then you can create really, really clear goals. We want to be on 15 podcasts, and then now you can manage expectations appropriately and accordingly, and actually come out with something that everybody can say, yes, we've achieved our goals.
Yeah, I feel like maybe, I know we have our schedule set, but as we wrap this one up, maybe we can talk for 15 minutes in the next episode about setting media relation goals.
Yeah.
I think that's a valuable topic, and one that helps you kind of set these expectations. But ask yourself 2 questions. Someone comes to you, wants a media release inside your company, or you think you need one. What's the goals? Am I ready?
Yeah.
And be introspective and go from there. But that's it. I'm going to try not to spill on myself next time.
Try your best.
All right. You know where to follow us. CIPR Comms on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We look forward to seeing you there, and we'd love to hear more about your PR strategies. 3, 2, 1.